We are live. I'm going to say a few things just to get everybody prepped, and then we'll have to wait for Mark. So we are in Medina, Ohio with auctioneer Steve Wilson. We are at the Walton School of Auctioneering, and there are four students here. And if you include George and I, there's actually 5 because everybody knows I'm a horrible student. So 6 people total, and we have auctioneer Steve who will be taking your questions today. Today's session will all be about the laws and legalities. So the actual footage is going to be right on Steve as he's teaching, and then George and I are right behind the filming, and we will be in the actual chat with you, answering any questions or asking your questions as well. So I'm going to I probably shouldn't move the actual camera. So George is back there, I promise. And we'll probably get started here in a few minutes. So anybody else who jumps into the chat, make sure they know as well, because we can't keep going back and forth jumping in front of the phone. And make sure you get your questions into the chat as well. So auctioneer Steve will be ready to answer those. Remember, he's got to take his actual students' questions first. They're paying to be here. They're in 2 weeks of actual schooling. And then hopefully we get that opportunity to answer all of your questions. So we'll see how it all goes. Ought to be a ton of fun. And we've got Grimes Fines from Texas. He says, "Hey, Steve," from Texas. And let's see. Little Red, the fam, says, "I'm at work. I'm walking dogs." They're watching Walking Dogs. Bradley Riddle says hello. Don says hello from Jawa. I don't know where that is. Dolly is in here. Locker Nuts says hello, everyone. I didn't see you there. Somebody's from Kosovo. I don't know where that is. Union, South Carolina. We got Belton, Texas. We've got Quebec. Jack is from Quebec. We got Deborah from Arizona, and they're all over now. So they are all over. Sweden. We've got Sweden even.
We've got 136 people watching right now.
Wow.
So we got Jackie is from her hospital room. So hopefully we give you some good tips today, Jackie. We got Oregon, Maryland,
Canada, Maine,
Arizona, Ontario. So we got Canada represented as well. New York, Missouri, Oregon again, Texas again. All right, I'm gonna go sit behind the computer, and Steve's gonna take it away. Remember, any questions that you have, make sure you put that into the chat, and you probably won't see George's face or my face from here on out. You should be thankful for that.
Well, hello and welcome to Auction School, the Walton School of Auctioneering. And welcome to Hales here. And we're going to be going over the Ohio laws for auctions, for storage foreclosed auctions today. We're also going to be discussing general auctioneering for you folks out there that don't know what it takes to become a licensed auctioneer in Ohio. You have to attend a school like this one for 2 weeks. You are tested in the school, you must pass it. Then you have to go to the state after you find a mentor that's going to mentor you along the way, your licensed auctioneer that's going to sponsor you. You have to take a state board test for your apprentice license. After you successfully pass that apprentice license exam, you get your license. Of course, there's a lot of fees along the way. You have to buy your apprentice license, you have to buy your bond. Then, after 1 year and doing 12 at least minimum auctions, your sponsor will sign off on it. You go back, you take another written and an oral state board test again. Then you become licensed, and you pay another fee to the state of Ohio and to an insurance company for your bond. And you continue paying that bond, I think it is for 3 years, until you are allowed to participate in the auction recovery fund, which is there for licensed auctioneers in case somehow we harm one of our clients. So, let me start out by saying that we're here discussing the Ohio Revised Code, anyone that wants to look this up, 5322. All right, and you don't have to take any notes during this class, okay? You won't find one question on any of your exams about what we're gonna discuss here today. However, after you become licensed, you better know what's in here because you're gonna be held to the same standards. You do not have to be licensed to sell lien auctions, sell storage units, or foreclosed auctions, like a sheriff's sale. You're not required to have the Ohio license yet. But if you do something wrong that as an auctioneer you know is wrong, then they're gonna come after you. So that's why we do it. Walton's is very good at making sure that you have a very rounded school and that you understand things. Now, kind of keeping with the theme of storage units, I'm going to hand out your notebooks. Notice these are out of a storage locker that I bought.
Nice.
All right, and you'll just pass those around. Jeremy, I got you and George one in there too.
Okay.
And take one of those and pass the rest. And notes.
There you go.
Okay, some of this is going to be repetitive, some of it is going to be boring. Hopefully we're going to have some fun along the way. And if you have any questions, it makes the day go by a lot quicker with questions. And I really don't have a structured lecture, because with this you bounce back and forth. It's just nature of the beast. Okay. Inside your packets here, you'll see the Ohio Revised Code 5322. Okay, and it defines what is allowed and what is not allowed as an auctioneer. And I'll put a disclaimer in right now. I am not an attorney. So if you have a legal question, I'll try to answer it, but don't take that question to my answer to the bank, because you probably should consult some legal help. I will give you my background. I am a 1969 year graduate of Chardon High School, long before most of you were even thought of. After high school, I enlisted in the Army during the Vietnam War. I served in the Army for a short time. I came out. I attended Lakeland Community College, where I have an associate degree, and I became a police officer. I was a police officer for 10 years with Chardon, and then I went to Cleveland State University as a police officer. I graduated from Walton School of Auctioneering in 2008 is when I graduated from here. And I've been doing storage units and so forth for approximately, now since the year 2002, I believe. So 17, 18 years. I had a trucking company and a light excavating company after I retired from being a police officer, and I sold that after I got hooked on buying storage units. But as I've gotten older, and storage units is a lot of work, And due to duty incurred injuries, as a police officer, I'm not physically able to handle the work with a storage unit anymore. And so we eliminated that, and all I do is I do the storage units and I do estate auctions and so forth. Okay, now for the people out there that don't know, there is a requirement for the storage units themselves. You just can't have a garage with 3 bays of them and rent them to your neighbors as storage and declare yourself a storage unit. They have to be made specifically for storage units. They have to be lockable. They have to be separate to where no one else can just walk in and grab what they want. You have to have contracts. So you have to have a contract with the storage unit. In that contract, it has to be spelled out. There's a lot of different things that are in that contract, such as what's in your storage unit, when does the rent have to be paid, how much time they're gonna give you. Okay? For them to be a storage unit. Now, for our purposes and for the Ohio Revised Code, some of the terms are, when I say owner, I'm talking about the storage facility. If I say customer or tenant, I'm talking about the renter. So I could say owner and you wouldn't know which one was which, the owner of the property or the storage unit. Okay? So a person that falls behind on their rent for whatever reason, and there are many reasons why they don't pay their rent. You know, they could be in jail, could be in a breakup, could have been an eviction. Because if someone gets evicted from their property or their house, the sheriff's department, it used to be they just moved the stuff out to the corner of the street and that was it. They can't do that anymore. Now they have to make sure that that property is stored properly and that it's in the proper hands. So they will go to a storage unit and pay the first month's rent. Then after that, it's up to the evictee in order to pay the rent and keep it up. And when that doesn't happen, they're going to sell the units. Now there's certain hoops that a unit owner or the facility owner has to jump through in order to sell this unit. They have to notify the tenant that their unit is going to be sold on such and such a day at such and such a time. Okay? They're gonna have to notify them. Now, who in here has ever gotten anything certified mail?
I have.
Has it ever been good news?
Never.
Never.
Correct. So, they used to send this stuff out certified mail, and the people wouldn't pick it up. They weren't home, they refused it, I never got notice, you sold my stuff, I never got notice. However, that's returned to the facility and they keep record of that. Now, they don't have to do that. They don't have to send it certified mail. Okay? All the post office has to do is delivery receipt, that it was delivered to the address. Now the address, and these are questions that you as prospective auctioneers are going to go in and your client is going to ask you, how do I do it? Well, the first thing I do is I give them a copy of the Ohio Revised Code. I'm off the hook immediately, you know. So, hey, I want you to read this, but I can kind of guide you through it a little bit. So they got to send it to them at the address of the contract. So if they moved 3 times in the interim and didn't notify you in writing, you send it to the address of record on the contract. And the post office, of course, gives you the receipt for that. You have to do it so many days ahead of time. Normally 30 days, 15 days. It has to be advertised. Now, it used to be that it had to be in hard print, meaning a newspaper. Hey, some small rural towns don't have newspapers. And newspapers are going out of business left and right anyway. And it's very, very expensive. Even your townships, your counties, sheriff's departments, they put the ads in hard print. From what I understand, they're no longer required to do that either. They're allowed to put them on the internet. Now with storage units, they put them on the internet, they can advertise them. I tell my clients to put them on Craigslist under community. And the test is, as long as there's 3 individuals separate from each other that come to the auction, then the advertising is deemed good. Okay, so you can go ahead and sell it. But it has to be on for about 2 weeks before the sale. You have to have an itemized statement as far as what's in the unit, at least 3 items. What's in the unit? Well, there's a tied up suitcase. You can't open the case or whatever, the owner can't. But you put that in there, roll top desk, sleigh bed. So that they can identify when they see the notice that, hey, I have stuff like that. Oh, gee, that's my name there. Maybe I should pay attention to this and get down and pay the rent. So they do that. Now, I've gone into accounts where trying to obtain accounts, and you have to sell yourself on this because I'm licensed, I'm bonded with the state. I have an advantage over such as internet sales. Now, a guy in Indiana, he's got this internet company and he sells a locker, and you know what? They sold the wrong locker. The guy, this locker that they sold was actually up to date on his rent. What happens? Well, the guy's in Indiana. You're going to have a heck of a time getting any type of a judgment against him. All right? So you sell yourself when you go into these storage facilities. I had one storage owner say, well, I don't need that because you know what? I had my attorney, he wrote up a contract that if they don't pay, their property is mine. You can't do that. The state of Ohio provides a remedy for these owners. They have to follow the remedy. What's property? Property is anything with value. So anything that's in there and it has a value, it has to be auctioned. Now, if it doesn't sell at auction, it becomes the property of the storage facility. Okay? Once that owner takes it to auction, he can do whatever he wants to with it if it does not sell, including destroying it, disposing it, giving it away, whatever. Now he's in the business of renting space. Okay, so that's what his business is. And he is not allowed to make a profit on the hardship of someone else. So in other words, if I own a storage facility owner, I owe the facility $600. Jeremy comes in, he buys that unit for $1,000. There's a $400 profit there. The owner does not get to keep that. He's allowed to keep whatever the rear's rent is, any cost to recover that, which would be the auctioneer's fee, any advertising fee, they're allowed to keep. Anything other than that, again, they have to notify the tenant, this time with certified mail, which they're not gonna respond to, that they have a balance due them. So they're, of course, not gonna respond, so they're never gonna know. The facility has to hang on to that money for, I believe it's 2 years. Could be 5, but I think it's 2. And then the state of Ohio takes control of that money. They have to send it into the state of Ohio to unclaimed funds. So then, 4 years down the road, I discover, hey, the state of Ohio has my funds. So I get a hold of the state of Ohio, and they're gonna make you jump through about 12 hoops to get your money out. And it's interest-free. You're not gonna get a dime's worth of interest. The state of Ohio does invest that money and make interest on that. And I believe the state of Ohio doesn't want you to ever recover that money because it helps them out in the taxes. Now, I happened to, by chance yesterday, I ran into Scott Mahalik. Anyone know Scott Mahalik? Okay, he's past president of the Ohio Auctioneers Association. And we were just talking, we were at a doctor's office and just talked briefly in the waiting room there. And he was telling me that the Ohio Auctioneers Association is trying to get legislation moving to do away with unlicensed auctioneers on the internet. Okay, especially for lien auctions. Now, I don't know how that's gonna go for other things, as far as internet auctions, like, well, sometimes I love the state of Ohio, sometimes they aren't so nice to us auctioneers.
So unlicensed, that would mean storagetreasures.com, lockerfox.com, bid13.com, ibidforstorage.com, and the list can go on and on, storageauctions.net, and they would no longer be able to operate in the state of Ohio, correct?
Correct.
Under
Unless
the
they
new
have a
legislation.
licensed auctioneer in the state of Ohio running the auction. Now, I'm not sure if they could hire an auctioneer in the state of Ohio. I haven't seen what legislation they're trying to do, but whether they would just hire a licensed managing company that's licensed in the state of Ohio to manage it in name only, that's probably what they would try to do, or if there's gonna be safeguards to actually make sure that it's being done correctly. So that's something to think of. Now, the state of Ohio, for auctioneers, you already know what it takes to become an auctioneer. Now you become an auctioneer and you're paying out all this money. What's the state of Ohio do for you? Oh, every once in a while, and I mean once in a while, they send you stuff like this. This is Governor John Kasig's last mailing to the Department of Auctioneers, going over different things that they may have changed or may not have changed in the auction industry. They'll send stuff like that out, but what are they doing for us? How are they promoting us? They really don't. But they take our money every biannually, you know, $200 every 2 years, right? But yet they take the state, the counties, the cities, municipalities, except for Medina County. I know Medina County doesn't do this. They still use a live auctioneer to sell their surplus, their wore out trucks, you know, their wrenches, their tools, stuff like that. They go online, probably to a firm that's not even in the state of Ohio or pays state income tax. So I don't think that's fair on the state of Ohio. And if anyone's listening out there from the state of Ohio, take note of that, please.
Can I ask another question, Steve?
Sure, ask away.
You tell me when I can't interject. One of our subscribers, Taki the Dummy, said, what about facilities that auction units off using their own managers? Like Public Storage will bring in a district manager.
That's perfectly allowed.
So right now, but under new legislation, that would go completely out the window, right?
I don't know, it depends on how it's written.
So if
Right.
the,
But
so yeah.
I think right now, what they're targeting is the online. Okay?
So
If they're using their own for their facility, I don't think there's ever been or going to be a problem with that, because they are totally,
So a manager is always going to be okay to just do whatever they want at their facility because it's their facility.
Right.
It's the online realm that Ohio legislation is trying to get control of because it's out of control.
right. It's out of
Gotcha.
control. Also, advertising. You have to be licensed to advertise in the state of Ohio if you're gonna have an auctioneer or an auction. But on the internet, that goes out the window again.
And that varies from state to state, right?
Yes, this is strictly, I'm talking strictly state of Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah, strictly the state of Ohio.
I've got another question. You mentioned that the managers can go in, they have to take a picture, they have to actually
No,
list
they don't have to take a picture. They
or
just have
list 3 items. I
Yeah.
apologize. They have to list 3 items in their posting that this unit is delinquent, it's up for lien. So what about a manager who, let's say a manager goes in and takes something from that unit before it goes up for auction? What are the liabilities, the legalities in regards to that?
Well, being a past police officer, that is theft.
There we go.
That is plain and simple, just theft.
So if say these guys went to a storage unit auction or we went to a storage unit auction and we noticed that something was stolen, would you suggest or recommend calling the police and reporting theft?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I won't mention the facility's name. Tom Hall is the auctioneer for this facility. They cut the locks in front of the people because they were having complaints that items were missing. This is years ago, before I was even thought about getting into this. And it turned out that the manager was going in because he would unlock the locks before, and he was going in and stealing items. So they set the manager up. The company actually came in, rented a locker from the manager, unbeknownst to him, had a complete inventory of what was there, deliberately did not pay the rent. They sold it at auction, went back in, there were items missing. And they had it on film.
That's incredible.
So, needless to say, that manager was prosecuted and fired. So, yes, definitely.
What would you think of a YouTube channel who had that same idea to expose a manager at a facility that was doing that and was actually implementing that process and was going to make a video about it? What would you say about that?
I say, good. Do it. Do it. If you can't do your job and do it right, don't do it. You know, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. You know, okay, now remember, I'm older. So my train of thought gets derailed constantly. All right. Where was I? Anybody know?
You were right before I was interrupting you.
That helps a lot. Okay. All right, now, you're go in, and even in some of my facilities that I auction, I cut the lock sometimes right in front of people, or the manager does. And we open it up, and there's a car there. Anybody know the law on the cars?
Does it have
Or a
title?
boat, or a motorcycle?
Does it have a title?
It does, but it's not in the possession of the facility. All right, are they allowed to sell it? No, they're not allowed to sell it. They have to have the title, and they have to have it in hand. You're not permitted to jump a title. In other words, we were at an auction, and Jeremy was there. We had a motorcycle and a car. The manager was told to go ahead and get the title. He did all the paperwork, all the running around. He got the titles for the bid. He did not get the titles. He got all the paperwork to get the title for the vehicles, but did not have the title in the facility's name. Okay? That's not right, because you're jumping a title. Because then you hand the person, well, here's the paperwork, go get the title, you're jumping the title. I did sell the vehicles. The owner of the facilities guaranteed the title in their names, so he took care of that. So I was comfortable enough to know that, and I've been working with this person long enough to know that the people that would buy it were gonna get the title, or there was no sale, they would get their money back. So we did that. But if you go open the door and the car's in parts, if it was made as a motor vehicle, it is a motor vehicle. You cannot sell it as parts.
And we see that often with all the storage unit auctions we go to. They'll say this is being sold as parts.
That would be like, I've got a bottle of alcoholic beverages at my auction. I'm not allowed to sell the auction.
You're not licensed
sell the
to sell
auction.
alcohol. Exactly.
But I'm gonna sell this glass, and whoever buys the glass gets this.
Gets the contents in it.
You can't circumvent the law, and that's exactly what it comes down to, is circumventing the law. Now, in your pamphlet there, you'll see that I made copies of some forms from the state of Ohio that you have to fill out and take to the BMV and in order to get these titles.
And that includes motorcycles,
Anything with a title. Now,
mopeds.
right, now, what I did do one time, and it was near the Pennsylvania-Ohio line, there was a trailer with a jet ski on there. The trailer had a Pennsylvania tag on it. And so did the registration on the jet ski. I checked with the state of Pennsylvania. I had all the numbers and everything. And there was no liens on the property, on the vehicle. And the state of Pennsylvania does not have, you don't have to have a title for some things, like a dirt bike and so forth, four-wheeler in Pennsylvania, they don't title it. Ohio does after, I think it is 77, they title that. The owner was encouraged, they had tried to take care of this, and he says, go ahead and sell it. So we sold it, but the person that we were sold it to was from Pennsylvania, and he was taking it back to Pennsylvania where he could legally take care of the paperwork. Other than that, he was gonna have to have, the manager was gonna have to go through everything to get the title work and so forth on that. And it takes a lot of time to get these titles and once they get them, and this, let me go back, as I said, I kind of jump around. I did a auction here in Medina, it was an account of mine. We had 3 vehicles, and it took a long time to get the titles. One of them was a Corvette, one was a Mustang, and one of them was a Blackwood Lincoln pickup truck.
Wow.
The individual that had bought these, owned them, put them in storage, was doing very well when he did this, and then all of a sudden the bottom fell out of his business, and he couldn't pay the rent. Question?
Is there any reason they wouldn't make a law that you have to put the title with them for a boat or anything?
Well, a lot of times, well, I'll get to that in just a second, hold that thought.
They don't know what they're storing.
Some do, some don't. All right? What happened was the vehicles were worth more than what was owed on the rent. So they couldn't get the titles right away. So they kept waiting and waiting. Finally, they got an attorney. The attorney got the titles on 2 vehicles. The third vehicle, there was a lien on it. So now, the owner or the management company of the storage unit is arguing with the bank. They found out who had the lien. They're arguing with the bank. You want your Corvette, come get it, but I want my rent money. And they were arguing, they couldn't settle it. Now it's entirely different. Now, if there's a lien on it, the first lien takes precedence, they have to release that vehicle to that owner. If it's a lien. They cannot hold on to it or hold it for ransom, for rent ransom. Okay? The other two vehicles we took to auction, I got my bids, it was on a Sunday. I come all the way down to Medina on a Sunday, brought my wife, who was a notary, ready to sign the titles. They got the titles in hand. We come down, they sent a district manager over, and I'm getting my bids, and he says, no, I won't sell them that cheap. What are you talking about? He says, there are vehicles, the titles are in our name. I says, that court gave you that with the order that they were to be sold. They're in our name. I'm not taking that kind of money. The fellow that actually bought the unit was a car dealer. He contacted his attorney. I wasn't happy. I didn't make my commission. No sale. Wasted my time, my wife's time. Anyway, make a long story short, he went back to the court that signed the order, and they ordered him to sell those vehicles for the highest price. That was a court order, they had to. Just because it was in their name does not give them the right not to sell. Okay? They do have the right to set a reserve. Okay, so let's say that they're owed $5,000 in rent. They could set the reserve at $5,000, but when they say there is a reserve, that becomes their bid. And that bid is what they have to give the customer credit for on their bill. And that's what kind of got us here today with one of what the Hales segments were. Was this legal from the manager? He stopped the sale in the middle of it because he says, no, I'm not going to let it go that cheap, and it doesn't look like it's going to achieve the reserve. So he can do that. He can do that. Okay, now back to your question. What was your question?
That answered it.
Okay.
I have a follow-up question though.
Okay.
Because you started with the vehicles. So under lien law, you can't auction off the vehicles, but what if you buy the unit and there's items that are stored in the vehicles? So the vehicles are unlocked, there's items in the trunk, there's junk in the trunk.
If you can get into that, if you can get into that trunk without disturbing the, breaking the lock or whatever, I'd say, yeah, go for it. That's not part of what was manufactured by Ford, Chevy, whatever.
Okay, now I'm gonna get really nitpicky. Let's say somebody puts in an aftermarket amplifier, speaker system, stereo system.
Is it connected to the vehicle?
Yes.
Then it's part of the vehicle.
Okay. Very good. That's a question we get a lot from people.
Yeah.
So really, that's the line. If it's connected, it's the vehicle. If it's not connected, it's fair game.
Right. You can't sell your house to a realtor and have a swimming pool deck connected to your house, and then, well, the pool doesn't go with it. So it's an above ground pool. They say, okay, well, great, the pool doesn't go with it. Well, the deck is attached to the house. The deck stays.
Good.
Okay. Now you're the owner, and this has happened to me when I was buying them. The owner shows up during the sale and says, "Hey, I want my unit," and I've already taken 5 bids on it. And I look at the manager, and the manager says, No, he had plenty of time to come in and sell or settle their account. What happens? As long as they're willing to sell or settle their account, they have the right to reconciliation. Up until the auctioneer says sold. Once I say sold, then it's absolute. Okay? And normally what you do is in your terms, which I handed out new terms, you gotta change your terms all the time. Terms of sales, all right? So sometimes you gotta send them to auction school when you're doing your terms of sale. So I was doing a sale in Middlefield, and we only do the sale once a year. I used to advertise, be on time, at least 15 minutes ahead of time to give you time to get registered. And the most important thing is at a sale is the terms of the sale. Now, this particular sale, the owners want to do it a little bit different. You're done paying, or when the auction for that unit's over, you go to them and you pay them right then and there. They'll make your change and all that kind of stuff, right then and there. Well, this one individual had missed the terms of the sale. So in auction school, you learn to start out high and come down low, and maybe you're gonna catch somebody on the way down and says, hey, that's low enough, I wanna jump in. So I started out at like $500. I got down to $250. I had someone jump in at $250. So now I'm at $275 and $3, $3 1/4, $3 1/2, $375. I got two people going back and forth. The guy wins it at $375. I say, okay, great, sold it, come on up, pay the manager. Next locker, his location is 576. So everyone moves on, the crowd moves on to 576. And I'm standing there with the facilities manager. This fella comes up and starts to give me $5.75 cash. He's digging through his change purse to give him 75 cents. And I said, no, wait a minute. It's $575, not $5.75. Oh, I don't even think I could come up with that kind of money today. Well, he was late. And normally, and my wife had registered him after the time I had set. So he was late for the terms. Can't blame my wife. She was just doing her job and didn't realize it was 5 minutes after the hour. By this time, the crowd had moved on. I lost track of my backup bidder. So I stood there and resold it again with the three people that remained. And I think I got $75 for it. Where someone originally had started it out at $250.
That hurts.
Okay, so you have to explain everything. Now, and I handed them out, I gave them new terms. I used to use a copy, and by the way, auctioneers always steal from each other. Actually, they just borrow it, like terms of the sale. What do you have in your contract? Oh, that's a good idea, I had an issue. Well, the state of Ohio says you have to go by what has to be in, and that's in your brochure too. In an absolute sale, I believe it's more involved with real estate, but in your contracts, there's 29 items that you have to have in your contract. Now, I'm one step ahead of the state. The new brochure that I handed out in a loose leaf, not in the binder, you have a copy of my personal property contract. All right? When you sell a unit at a storage facility, it's not personal property. So I made up a contract. It's lien property because it doesn't belong to the facility. Okay? Does not belong to the facility. Which brings up another point. State sales tax. You go to some auctions, they don't charge state sales tax. Some do, especially if it's a corporation and they're out of state. Because they don't want to deal with the state of Ohio and fight over such a small thing as sales tax when it's not costing them anything anyway, because it's somebody else's money they're taking. However, the way state sales tax is, you bought that property to resell. If it's not your property, how can you charge sales tax on it, and especially when you didn't buy it to resell? You know, if you have a consignment store, a 5 and dime, a hardware store, yeah, you charge sales tax. But that's not your property, that belongs to that private individual, and I'm sure that he's not collecting sales tax on it for the state of Ohio. Any questions?
So how can the facilities actually charge sales tax if they're not? Let me back up a little bit. How can they charge sales tax if they're not reselling? They didn't own the property. They don't legally own the property. How can they get away with charging sales tax?
Because you will get in trouble with the state if you don't pay the state money that's due them.
Okay.
If you overpay the state will never complain. So if you collect tax and give it to the state, even though it wasn't due the state, they're not going to complain. You can file with the state to get that tax money back.
Let's switch it up a little bit. What about a manager's unit versus a lien unit? So a couple different questions. Do the facilities have to actually, do they legally have to state that this is a manager's unit, or they put all this stuff in this unit to sell versus a lien unit? And obviously they could charge sales tax on that, the reselling, right? So how would you go about the legalities
Generally,
of
a
a manager's
manager's unit is stuff that people left behind.
unit?
You know, it's a couch, it's a desk, whatever. It was really not their property anyway, but the tenants left it behind. They can throw it into the dumpster. All right? Or, hey, it's too good, or it's too costly, let's try and sell it. I always am trying to let the people know, if I know it's a management unit or it's a collection of stuff, I try to let them know. Okay? Now that leads me to another part. It's always confusing. Excuse me just a second.
Well, and you personally are trying to let them know, but does an auctioneer or does the facility legally have to announce that it's a manager's unit, to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, I'm gonna say they should. I'm not sure if it's a law or not.
So morally, yes, they should. Legally, undisclosed, we don't know if they legally would have to.
Right. Right. Now, here's another thing. I've come up with situations where people, or the manager has approached me and says, look, you're coming up, we got 5 units to sell. 6 units if you count this one. Well, what's this one? Well, it belongs to a tenant of ours. Actually, it belongs to their daughter, who moved out of the country, and they're tired of paying the rent on it. They just want to get rid of it. They don't want to pay the rent anymore. And they don't have any other place to store it or whatever, but they want to get rid of it. Will you sell it? Yeah, I can sell it, but I have to have a contract with who owns that property as an auctioneer. I can't say, well, and sell it as a lien property if it's not lien property. You have to be upright and forthright all the time, especially in the auction business, because if you're not and you get caught, no one's going to come to your auctions anymore. Plain and simple. Any other question?
Someone asked,
You got one?
Dean asked, what's the difference between selling stuff you bought at an auction versus selling stuff at a garage sale? Garage sales don't have to charge sales tax.
It depends on the state, okay? Some places you have to get a permit to have a garage sale. And then with that, you have to get a vendor's license. In some places, I understand. I've never held a garage sale. I used to, when I bought, I would sell at a flea market, and we had to sign when we got the space, we had to sign that we would collect applicable sales tax. Of course, that put, who knows if they did or not. I always did, so. And I turned that into the state until I dropped my vendor's license. Any more questions?
We did have a question from a viewer who wants to know how this would apply to YouTube. So, for example, you'd mentioned already the online platforms of Storage Treasures, Locker Fox, Bit13. So, if somebody, let's say like YouTube, they go live and they're holding an auction, and it's just like George goes on there and goes, I want to sell this bottle of whatever, and who will give me $1? Who will give me $2? What are the legalities as far as online, just going live and selling your stuff to anybody who would watch? Do you know anything that would surround that?
Yes, I do.
Perfect. Perfect.
But by the way, I am an encyclopedia of useless facts, and you'll probably.
I
find out
appreciate
something.
that because I'm a
And
volume
I'm
or two
sure a
myself.
lot of our viewers appreciate it as well.
Yeah, but anyway, I can sell my phone right now. We are online, correct?
Yep.
I can sell my phone without my license because it's my property. That's the thing. If it's your property, you can sell it. All right, if it's not your property, you better have a licensed auctioneer sell it.
That's good. That's the line. Your ownership is the line.
Ownership is the test, is legal test, that's correct.
Catfish Hunter wants to know, can you run a store from a unit that you're renting on the property? Can you legally run a store from a storage unit?
The only thing in the Ohio Revised Code that you can't do in a storage unit, because I've seen manufacturing plants in storage units, building pallets, tearing apart computers and using it as temporary housing, for
Yep.
facilities. The only thing you can't do in a storage facility, it can't be used for a dwelling in the state of Ohio. And I believe, and that's even stated in the,
Is that right in the
Description.
revised code?
it's in the revised code under description of a storage facility.
And I don't personally know any state where it can be used as a dwelling. Do you, off the top
No,
of your head?
no.
Yeah, I'm not aware of. I don't.
However, where you bought your moose head,
Yeah.
okay, the newest part that we weren't in, the climate control, and then in front of it, it's not climate control, the outside units, there was a homeless person that was staying in one of them and accidentally kicked over his heater in the winter and caused a fire, and they lost 5 units up there. He was lucky
Wow.
to get out alive.
Wow.
I found out that after I came back from Florida. Of course, I didn't have to contend with the snow while I'm in Florida.
Yeah.
So, but all the laws that pertain to you as an auctioneer, even though you think that they may not pertain to you if you sell a storage facility, because it's a different animal, so to speak, it does. Darryl McGuire, who you just had here a little bit ago, he's quite a horseman. And a person that knows him contacted him because they were running a stable for boarding. Someone wasn't paying their rent. He called me and asked me, is that legal? Can I sell that animal as, under the lien law? And I says, I think you can, but I says, let me research it. So I tried researching it, and everything I came up with was yes. I called Darryl back and I says, I've researched it, I can't see why you can't, but again, I'm not an attorney. And so he researched it, he dug in a little bit deeper than what I was able to get, and he found out it operates under the same laws. So even though it's an animal, he can go ahead and sell it. But he had to have the contract and so forth. Because with the state of Ohio and being licensed, you can get away with probably a lot more if you're not licensed. I mean, you'll be a little bit more lenient with you if you break the law, probably, than you are with being licensed, okay? But ignorance of the law is not an excuse. You're not gonna go anywhere. And that's why I don't know why the state of Ohio does not make sure that all auctions, and I don't care if it's on the internet, in the courthouse, is not done with a licensed auctioneer. Eventually, I hope we can get that changed. Any questions right now?
Can you think of any other, or you see any other, Steve?
Well, there was a couple random questions earlier in the chat.
Go ahead.
Some wanted to know how long exactly it takes to be an auctioneer. They also wanted to know how much an auctioneer makes, which we obviously know that's going to be extremely different. But as from an auctioneer, if you don't mind answering that.
Okay, well, fortunately, I have other income as an auctioneer. I do this more as a hobby and to keep my mental status going and stay active with people, versus the money part of it. I've noticed when the economy is good, and right now the economy is good, and you get, brings up, when the economy is good, the storage facilities that you're gonna sell are normally trash. Or if they're not, it's because someone died, or something happened to that, they're in jail or whatever, okay? The people that have storage facilities, when the economy is good, they pay their bills. People don't wanna lose their lockers. They don't mind walking away from trash. Matter of fact, I've seen lockers where people have bought other lockers, rented a locker, and just put the trash in there so they didn't have to haul it to the landfill and pay for it. Because they had first month rent. Then I saw the facility change it, you got the second month rent free. So if it was still cheaper, then that's what they did. They put it in there. Now, when you're an auctioneer and you're licensed, well, first of all, has anyone ever been in court or even watched court on TV?
Yes.
Okay? And you got Judge Judy up there and she says, no, we're doing it this way, or we're doing it that way. You know, that judge in that courtroom is the supreme commander, as long as they don't step over their bounds and get out of their bounds. Because judges are answerable too to people and to the law. An auctioneer is the same thing. If it's your auction and I say, I'm sorry, Marty, you're not welcome at my auctions anymore because last time you bought a unit, you didn't clean it out. Okay? But it's a public auction, Steve. I'm allowed to be here. It says it's a public auction. I'm sorry, Marty, I just don't want you here because you didn't clean out that locker. I'm within my right to do that. Okay? And if someone argues with you enough, say, okay, be here, but I don't have to take your bid either. Right? Oh, I'm sorry, I missed your bid, Marty. You didn't get that one. So you can make up your rules kind of as you go, as long as you stay within the format of what the state of Ohio says that you as an auctioneer are permitted or not permitted to do. Anything else?
You see any others? Bill?
Did you answer how long it takes to become an auctioneer?
Okay, I did earlier. Well, actually, there is no answer for that. It depends on you. I mean, there's certain guidelines that the state puts out that you have to be an apprentice for a full year. Okay, and in my particular case, I didn't get my license to 2010, but I was a student in 2008. I was in the fall class. This class, 2008, I was sitting where you guys are.
So the actual class is 2 weeks long?
It's 2 weeks, 80
10
hours.
days, 80 hours. And then it's
Class.
up to the individual to get their hours in when they apprentice under someone.
There's no hours involved. You have to do 12, after you find.
12 sales.
You have to do 12
Okay.
sales.
Okay.
Right, which means that, doesn't mean you have to do the whole sale, it just means that you have to sell something at 12 different auctions.
Okay. And then
Okay.
someone wanted to know if you know a Betty Botter.
Okay, if what?
Do you know someone by the name of Betty Botter? Maybe another
It doesn't
auctioneer.
ring a bell.
Betty bought her tongue twister, maybe. Is that what they're talking about?
I don't know.
Oh, is it part of chant?
Yeah. No. Well, yeah. There's a tongue twister. Out there.
Okay, Betty bought
Bought some butter.
some butter. Okay, it's for chanting, so it's one of the
Oh.
chant practices.
Oh,
So
okay,
that's
no,
what it
we
is.
didn't, we didn't have that one here.
We didn't.
And
We didn't
you know
either.
what?
I just picked it up somewhere else.
I think Daryl said, you know, it's more important to do other things other than chant. Right now, everyone's worried about their chant. It's like singing for the first time in public, especially if you have a voice like me. You know, you don't even want to, I mean, a freight train would take a dirt road to get away from you. So,
Steve-
you're worried about that. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Dave DeCamp says, what happens when a renter comes after the unit is sold, but they have information that they sent a letter to the storage facility for change of address? And so basically, in a nutshell, Dave's asking, what happens if the facility sold a unit that wasn't supposed to be sold? And there's proof that it was the facility's fault. What happens in that case?
Then, well, several different things can happen. I know of an auctioneer, it wasn't my sale, they sold the wrong unit. Well, the guy was upset that they sold his unit. He ended up bringing everything back, the guy that bought it, once requested. He did it as a favor to the auctioneer. He brought everything back. Of course, there's always missing items. What happened to my Rembrandt? You know, and they, of course, there was litigation. The auctioneer was brought in on it, named in the suit, because there's a thing with attorneys, it's called deep pockets. You just sue everybody, whoever has the deepest pockets is gonna end up paying.
And
So-
the people who win in those types of situations are the lawyers, because they're the ones getting paid.
Yes, yes. Now, it's unfortunate sometimes, I mean, people make mistakes, sometimes it happens, you know, and, I know one time I was going to end up selling the wrong unit. We stopped it before, it was, done anyway. He said, hey, this is the wrong unit. Okay, well, go ahead and lock the door. The management bought him a new lock, and it was the one next door that we were supposed to do, so he unlocked that one, we sold that one. But the other unit, that they weren't supposed to sell, I'm glad it wasn't for sale, because there was nothing in it.
It was empty?
Well, it wasn't empty, but it was nothing of what I consider value
Yeah.
in there. You know, the rule of thumb is, and I've heard you say this many times on your program, you look at the locker, and what you see is what you bid on. You don't bid on what's in that box that you can't see in. You don't know if it's clothes, books, drugs, whatever. And when I open up a locker and I see a firearm in there, you're allowed to sell it. Now, you haven't gone through ATF. ATF will be here. I'm not sure if it's next week.
I think it's Tuesday.
Tuesday? Next Tuesday? All right, they're gonna be here. And they're gonna give you a great big book like that. And, there's all kinds of laws in there, but primarily, what I've done, and I've caught them several times, Vic was the instructor, and I didn't hit it off well with Vic, when we were here. But I've called him several times with questions, you know, and it works out. You know, if you don't know before you do it, call. As a matter of fact, in the brochures or the pamphlets I gave you, the ones that I spared no expense on, the most important thing in there is my card. Staple, right there. You got a question, call me. I don't charge you anymore, and I carry a cell phone, so if I'm in Florida, I can still answer your question, or give you direction anyway, on where to find out what's going on.
They want to know if auctioneers are required to carry error and omissions insurance.
No, only real estate. Only real estate carries that. I had it when I was in real estate, or when I had my license. And be quite truthful with you, I was forced to join the realtors. And the realtors do nothing for auctioneers. However, you're required to join them if your broker is a member. And you're required to pay the errors and omission insurance through your broker. And also, I forget offhand what it's actually called, but it's online, where you advertise online and list your housing and so forth. And,
MLS.
pardon me?
MLS.
MLS, yes, multiple,
Listing services.
yeah.
Michelle wants to know, what's your take on why some people don't want an auction filmed, or a facility goes, no. What's your take on that?
Well, there's several reasons. Of course, my wife always says, once a cop, always a cop. She says, I'm still on patrol even though I've been retired over 20 years, okay? The biggest reason is most people are doing it as a hustle. They're hustling money on the side. They don't want IRS or workers' comp if they're getting workers' comp for an injury that they're claiming, or disability. You know, I mean, if you can move that couch by yourself or that refrigerator, you're able to go out and work. They don't want them to know who's buying this stuff and then setting up at the flea market or whatever and selling it online. I've run into people like that all the time. Or it could be wanted. You know, but if there's any reason they don't want to be filmed, my first question is, why? What are you doing? What's the matter? How come?
What are you hiding?
Exactly. What are you hiding? If you see the other fellow out there, I'm going to do an auction. Tell him to come back in. And so those are the biggest reasons. Now that you've touched on that too, I want to give you a little bit more information. People that don't want to be filmed, don't come to an auction. Don't leave your house, because you're being filmed constantly. Anywhere you go, you're being filmed. You come out to the parking lot, or you decide your house is across the street from a 7-Eleven store. Your house is being filmed, whether you know it or not, because it's in the background. And the people going in is being filmed. And people that are filming have that right to film. As long as one person in the state of Ohio knows that it's being filmed, and it can be the person, the photographer. Okay, same thing with video. I'll tell you a little story. When I was a police officer, we were having a problem in downtown Cleveland, believe it or not, with hijackers, carjackers. Okay? And we decided, rather than being reactive, we're going to be proactive police officers for a change. And they had a detail. It was a plainclothes detail, and we got out, and we had a general description of this individual. So we were stopping people and doing what they call the field investigation, or a field interview with that individual. And we'd make out a card that we had talked to them and so forth, and kind of feeling them out, finding out where they were, IDing them and so forth. Well, I stopped this one person and talked to him and so forth, but it was right after Christmas. Actually, it was in January. And I had received a little micro recorder as a Christmas gift. So I had that with me, and every time I interviewed, I would turn that on. I knew it was being recorded. The person I was interviewing did not know it was being recorded. So it was still legal. So I stopped this person, and they were on the steps, and when I got up next to him, I said, "Oh no, you're way too tall." We had what I thought was a nice conversation, and he was a person of color, okay? And the suspect was also that too. So anyway, my father passed away. I was out for about a week with my family, I come back to work, one of my coworkers says, oh, by the way, you're being investigated. I said, why? He says, well, you better talk to detective, I won't give his name anyway, the detective, and because he's investigating. I says, why? He says, do you remember doing a stop on an individual on a stairway? And I says, yeah, I do. He says, well, according to that, you were quite saying some not so nice things to him. And you can imagine what they were, you know. And turned out he was president of the student council. So I said, well, whatever. And so I went up to see the detective, and he started telling me all this. And I said, well, wait a minute. I got the whole conversation recorded. Here it is. Well, that was the end of it. They had the administration, the university administration was involved. And a few days later, I'm riding up an elevator with the vice president of human resources. And he says, him and I are the only ones on the elevator. And he says, he looks at me and he says, recorder, huh? He said, who would have thought? Well, it was before we had police cameras.
Yeah.
All right. Now you have police cameras all the time, and they're recording you. You know, you see on live PD, get that camera off me. I told you to get it off me. I don't want. They're allowed to have it. You can holler all you want to. They're allowed to have it. Did you run into Mark at all? Anybody run into Mark?
Yeah. He's out talking to Mark.
2 marks, huh? All right.
One more quick question.
Okay.
Just Weird Fun wants to know, can an auctioneer refuse to auction a unit? If so, for what reasons? Can you say, no, I don't want to auction this off? Would there be a reason why you would do that?
I would do it, and whoever I'm auctioning off for would say, well, why? And I would give them a reason why. Okay, the only thing that's in there is a automobile.
So why?
It's in
even-
parts. Sell it as car parts. No, I'm not selling it as car parts because that was made as a motor vehicle. I'm not gonna sell it. Okay?
And then I've got one final question. It's my question. What is the absolute craziest thing you've ever seen, either buying storage units or auctioning storage units? What's the one thing that comes to the top of your mind? It's a story that you think about and you tell people.
Craziest thing was, I was at an Uncle Bob's. All right, they're no longer under that name, but I was at an Uncle Bob's. They opened it up, and it was blue tubs of chemicals, unlabeled chemicals. Didn't know what they were in there. Obviously, someone rented it, put the chemicals in there because they were hazardous material of some type and didn't want. Someone bought it for $5. I went to a line auction on following Monday, and those were all lined up, along with the other things that were in that unit. They were all lined up in another auction. And when I used to buy storage units, sometimes I would take them down to Kinko and Louisville, okay? And they had, on Friday nights, they have a big auction there. And we took stuff down, and as a matter of fact, some of the stuff in there were personal items of ours, and we put them in the line auction. And that Sunday, I used to go down to the Middlefield storage facility, or not storage facility, auction house. They have it on Monday. And what would happen is that we took all this stuff down on Sunday. We had to line it up. And we put our number on it and everything. And we're looking around. There's everything that we took to the Kinko auction on Friday night is down there for sale on Monday. It's in line already on Sunday. So I thought that was kind of humorous. My wife says all we do is move junk from place to place to place. That's all we do. That's all we do. And back to how long it took, I started to tell you. In 2008, I was sitting where you're sitting. 2009, we were done with our apprenticeship program. And there were 6 in our class. And we wanted to make application, or we did make application to take the test during the, when the board has their meeting. And the board decided to change their meeting date by 1 week, move it ahead by 1 week. So you know what happened? We weren't permitted to take it. We called legislation. We called everything. Did not matter. You have not been an auctioneer for 1 full year at the time of the test, so you're not, well, don't give us our license for another week. No, they wouldn't do that. We had to wait until they got a next test, and they decided to wait a little bit longer because the board was changing. There was new members coming on the board, so they waited to have their spring meeting. So actually, we were apprentice for about 1.5 years, which is kind of tough because I know when I approached my sponsor, he says, "I'd love to have you, Steve." He says, "I'm just looking forward to that free labor for 1 year." Well, he got 1.5 years out of me. And he had a consignment auction on Saturday night. Thursday night, he had another auction at a different location. It was a food auction and a wholesale auction. Then, of course, I went through 2 Christmas seasons with him. And he was having auctions probably 4 days a week during the Christmas season. So, excuse me.
One more question. Flippin' Adventures wants to know, are there any other states that cooperate with Ohio's auctioneer license so you don't have to go through all the requirements? Similar to like.
Yes, you have reciprocity. All right, so let's say that I'm licensed in Ohio. I can go to Florida and apply for a temporary license. You know, if let's say I have a relative and I want to do their auction down there. I can apply for a temporary auction license, or I can apply for a non-resident license, as long as I'm licensed. Now, there may be a few other requirements in there, but generally, they're pretty much alike. Pretty much alike. There are states that require no licensing. It's called a lawless state. New Jersey, Michigan, I believe New York. We had a fellow, it was a while back, was going through the school. He was going to be an auctioneer in New York. He decided to go through the school because he wanted to know everything that he could about auctioneering, which is the proper way. Now, I believe it's West Pennsylvania or West Virginia. I can't remember. One of them, you don't have to go to school, but you have to be an apprentice for 2 years.
Pennsylvania.
It's Pennsylvania? Okay, yeah. But if you go to school, then your license is rendered more quickly. Now, one of the fellows in our class, my class, he shortly after getting his license in Ohio, he moved to North Carolina. Well, he didn't get his license in North Carolina while he was still living in Ohio. Therefore, they would not recognize the reciprocity. Okay, so then he had to go through their requirements to get the license in North Carolina from scratch. Now, you're going to meet a lot of different people, or come in contact with a lot of different people in this field. Now,
So did the totes ever sell that came from that auction? The chemical totes?
I didn't stick around at the Middlefield thing. I don't know if they did or not. So weirdest things, and I don't know if the chemicals are still in there. I know that they were full when the guy took them out of there. Now, whether he just, whatever he did with the contents and just took the containers down, I don't know.
Isn't there a fee, like a $50 fee if you don't clean your unit out or something?
All right, that's in the terms of the sale. Now, the people that I deal with, if they've done business with you before, they generally won't charge you the fee. Because they know, they've worked with you, they know they're gonna room clean it when you get it out, okay? Now, there's been people that have not cleaned them out, and I've told I don't want back. Okay? And some people go, well, I'm gonna pay $50. Shoot, I'm just gonna leave this stuff, you know, let them clean it out for $50. I don't have to pay that to haul it away and waste my time. I'm just gonna cherry pick the unit and leave the trash. That's just a deposit. Okay? At my auction, they're gonna clean it out, they're gonna charge you for that. All right? Which leads me to another thing too. You have a locker, you owe $600 and only brought $400. You still owe the storage facility that $200. Just because they sold it does not take care of your debt entirely. They can still take you to small claims court, and one account that I have still does. He takes them to court. He says, if I'm not allowed to keep the excess, these people aren't gonna get away with owing me anything. Right? Now, you're gonna run into all kinds of different people. I found a flintlock pistol one time. And it had some writing on there. I could kind of make out the lettering, but I couldn't quite. So I was researching the gun, and I come across on the internet a fellow that had a nice article written about it and said it's a very rare pistol. It was a Russian cavalry pistol from 1813, and it said it was very valuable, but it didn't say how valuable. So I called the guy, his phone number was there. Now, does anyone watch Pawn Stars?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, here's a picture of the gun. Right here. This pistol. That's off the internet. That was his picture, actually. But anyway, does anyone remember
Can I take that up to the camera, Steve?
Sure,
Just so they can see it a little bit better.
sure.
So this is.
And stand by, because I'll give you another picture. You can
Okay.
put it on there.
So this is the picture of the pistol that he found.
Yeah. Actually, it was for a client of mine, okay? And so I called and I said, gee, I have this, but it doesn't say how valuable. He says, well, it depends, you know, condition, location, you know, condition. And I says, oh, okay. And he told me what his name was. I says, are you the one on Pawn Stars? And he says, yes, he was. He had the red beard and the short hair, kinda, and he was there, I have a friend I'm gonna call with antique firearms, and this is the fella right here that I talked to on the phone. He sent that to me and signed it because there was a little mix-up on the check that he sent me. And so anyway, it was his way of kind of apologizing, I think, for the mix-up. And I read his resume, and gee, he worked for Disney on Pirates of the Caribbean. He worked with Mel Fisher down in the Keys on those dive. He was on the same team that when Mel Fisher lost his son in that boating accident, he was there getting all that treasure and so forth. He is a antiques gunsmith. So I talked to him a couple times on the phone. So we're sitting in class one time, and there was a fella in here. He was not too much younger than I was, and I thought, why is he working for his license here in Ohio? So I says, why are you in this class? And he had a great big catalog from California. He was from California taking the class here in Ohio. And I says, I forget his name now, Mark knows it. And he was actually on the auctioneering board for the state of California before the state disbanded their board of auctioneering and went lawless. he had an auction that he did yearly down in Cincinnati, a big firearms auction that he did, and had a catalog like that. It's beautiful. And so he had to get an Ohio license in order to do his auction that he used to do under reciprocity, but couldn't because California wasn't licensed anymore. So that was interesting. I says, you know Sean Rich by chance? He says, he's in my shop every other day, you know, so you just never know the connections you're gonna make. Now, kind of in closing here, two things. Do you know what the difference is between a bum and a hobo?
No.
I feel like both most of the times when I'm going through storage units.
Does anybody know the difference between a bum and a hobo?
No.
Okay.
I didn't realize there was a difference. I thought it
I
was
thought-
just
I
the
thought it
same
was
thing,
same thing,
different
yeah.
words.
Yeah.
Same thing, totally different. A bum will not work. Okay? A hobo will work only till their immediate needs are satisfied, and then they're off. They're gone. So there's this hobo, and he's going through the town, and he's getting kind of hungry. So he goes up to the store and he knocks on the door, and the lady comes to the door, dressed in a very sheer negligee, and says, "Ma'am," he says, "I'm hungry. I want to work. Can I rake your leaves or clean your gutters and so forth?" She says, "Nah." She says, "You know, this is a brothel." She says, "I don't know of anything that you could do here." She says, "But if you want, I'll give you some food. I'd really prefer working, you know, and for my food. I don't mind working for my food." Well, she says, "We are looking for a bookkeeper." And he says, "Oh, ma'am," he says, "I've never had any formal education." He says, I just couldn't do that. But she insisted that he take some food with him. So she gives him a basket of fruit. So he's walking down the street with his basket of fruit, and a person comes up and says, "Hey, I'll give you $2 for that fruit." He says, "Oh, $2, I can get something to eat." So he sold the fruit for $2, took $1, got something to eat, had $1 left, he got some more fruit and sold another $2 worth of fruit. Well, next day, he's got 2 baskets running up and down the street selling fruit. Week later, he's got a push cart selling fruits. It's not a month later, he's got a big corner stand, he's selling fruits and vegetables. About 9 months later, he's got this warehouse. He's got trucks going in and out, in and out. He's just really fantastic. And he started thinking about this. This is a hassle. He says, "I'm a hobo at heart. I want to go back to doing what I wanted to do." And he says, "I got to get rid of this business." So he called an attorney. And the attorney arranged the sale of the business for $2 million. So Kroger's is gonna buy this, and he's sitting at the table, and the attorney says, "Well, here's the contract." He says, you have to sign it here. And he says, "Well, they're gonna have to take an X." An X? He says, "Yeah." He says, "I've never had any formal education." The attorney says to him, he says, "You built up this multi-million-dollar business inside of a year, and you've never had any formal education. Could you imagine what you could have been if you'd had some education, had some formal education?" And the hobo sat there and thought for a little bit, and he said, "Yeah, a bookkeeper in a whorehouse." So set your goals high. Now,
Aim high.
aim high. Now, I told you before that the most important part of being an auctioneer that you're worried about is your chance. So I promised you that I would have an auction. So I'm gonna sell, excluding This is for students only, and that's why I wanted Mark to be here.
Oh, man. Did
Okay.
we bring money, babe?
I'm
We
gonna have a
might
little
excluded us anyway. I don't
I
think
have
so.
some money.
This is a 1878 Morgan silver dollar, Carson City, CC right on the back. And I'm gonna sell it to you students. Okay? Now, have you ever heard of hobo art or tramp art or trench art?
Yes, but I never knew what it was.
Okay, well, this is it. This is a good part of it. Okay, what this is he took that silver dollar, and they made a skull of it. I'm gonna pass it around so you guys can see it.
Can I show the camera first,
Sure,
Steve?
show
Is
it
that all right?
And show the CC on the back. It's
Okay.
really
Just
authentic.
going to auction this
It
off
would-
to the
It
students.
probably would be worth about $1,000 or more. The fact that it is a Carson City mint. However, it has been changed from its original. So the most important part of an auction is your terms of sale. Okay? I only have one here. Highest bidder owns it. Simple.
That's cool.
Okay?
That's really cool.
You like that? Okay, so what do you get for it? Who get 500?
I'll
If-
give you 5.
No, you're not allowed.
Oh, George got shut down.
Denied.
Students only.
I thought I was a student.
You did say at the beginning they were students.
All right, I'll let them in.
All right, I won't bid. You guys can bid.
Okay. Who get 500? Get 500. Now remember, chants don't really matter. Okay? I have a terrible chant, but I get the job done. So get 500. Get 4. Go 4. What do you get 4? 3. 3. Go 3. Who get 200? Give 100. 75. Get 75. Go 75. What do you get 75? Now 50. 50. Go 50. What do you get 50? Anywhere 50. 50. Now 25. Get 25. Who get $10? Who get $5? The silver's worth more than that.
Dude,
I got $2. Now 3. I got 5. Now 6. 6 go 6. What do you get 6? Now 7. 7 go 7. What do you get 7 and 8? 8. 8 go 8. Huh?
10.
I got 10. 11. 12. 12. Go 12. $12. $12.
Yeah.
13.
13. 14. 14. Go 14. Go 14. 14. Get 14. Make it 14. Go 14. What do you get 14?
Come on, George, you said you
14. 14. 14. 15. 15. 15. Ah, see, I got you, didn't I? Because he hadn't even hit 14 yet. 15. And I'll take your money. 15. 15. 15. Now 16. 16. Go 16. 16. Okay. You got it. 15. Give that to him.
What?
You did?
Yep.
Clark.
The 16-year-old.
Clark won it, the 16-year-old, right here, sitting next to George.
So pass that over.
$15.
Now, for each one of you, you like that, don't you? $16. All right?
15.
15.
Or
But wait a
15.
minute, wait a minute. You legally can't bounce one off the wall.
Hey, anyway, what did I say before? It's more important that you're honest. Everything I told you about that silver dollar was a lie. Anybody else want to buy one? Same price? How do you feel about that now, huh? You gonna come to my auctions again after I just fleeced you?
Nope.
All right.
You said
Keep your money. That's yours as a souvenir.
They're
and you guys get
congratulating
one
you
too.
in the chat.
Now, on
They
the,
say
on the front, this serves as a reminder.
Is
Be
it-
honest with your dealings when you're auctioning.
Is it still a silver one?
No. It's made in China,
Yeah, see?
Thank you, Steve.
all right?
God,
It's made in China, and what that's going to do is, you keep that as a lucky piece, all right? It's gonna be a reminder of being honest, because if you're gonna make your living being an auctioneer, and you're not honest, no one's gonna come to your auctions, and you're gonna look like that skeleton, because you can't feed yourself.
Now, when you bounced it off the wall, that would technically be illegal in this book. Because in your terms of contract, which you didn't hand out, So therefore, you have no legal contract with that. Therefore, that would be illegal.
I don't need a contract, it's my property.
Correct. But if you have a contract, that would state that you're bidding. When you bounce one off of Mark,
Right, but
Mark didn't bid.
actually that was an accident, so
Okay.
didn't intentionally
Okay.
do that.
But that would be an illegal thing, which I could say I'm out of the deal because of that issue.
Right,
You could also
Okay.
say you're out because you're only 16.
right,
really don't
because
care.
actually you have to be 18 in order to take a lawful bid, so.
Yes, you do.
But I did that knowing that,
Two times adoption.
but I did that to teach you kind of a morality lesson here, so. If there's no other questions,
I think we're good. We good, babe?
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in. That's been Steve Wilson, auctioneer. It's
Slash
not
instructor.
a class instructor, professor for the day,
Slash hero.
and hero. And by the way, Steve, many of our subscribers, when they see you on our videos, they've always asked us to tell you thank you for serving in the military and serving our country. So we do say that on behalf of them. And I do wanna show one more thing. There's Kate. And Kate, we are big proponents of females being a part of auctions because it's like a male guy thing. So I think
really
it's
is.
incredible that you're here.
It is.
We love that you're here.
Yeah.
But I wanted to show right above you, if you could do your Vanna White, put your arms, there you go. Walton School of Auctioneering, training tomorrow's professionals today.
thank you.